Underwriting the future, harnessing the power of youth in the Middle East, the Atlantic Council hosted a conversation with Shama bint Faris al-Mazrou'i, United Arab Emirates Minister of State for Youth Affairs. Al-Mazrou'i explained the problems and what the youth in the Middle East suffering from.
Changing mindsets. I think we always look at the Middle East region and say counter-violent extremism. But there's so many other youth. If you shift the focus on the role models.
With exclusive economic condition across the Middle East, mostly as a result of the region's civil conflict, youth face difficult choices and uncertain future.
Well, my name is Bill Reese, and I'm the president and CEO of the International Youth Foundation. We work in about 70 countries around the world trying to bring proven practice, meaning good curricula and strategies for youth development that have been piloted and tested. Now you can go to scale because the demographics of the youth bulge, the largest percentage of global populations that are teenagers and young adults, is the largest in the history of the world, and we have to be about scalable solutions. I think the Kurdish young people are doing what people do from almost every part of the world, and that is they want a better future, and that means they want a society where there's a role for them to play politically and civically and socially, and they want to be economically and viable. So that means they need a job or be able to start a business and have some sort of hope of moving up in life. Most of us start off out of school low down in our organizations, but if we work hard, we know we can rise up. I think that's an aspiration that young people have everywhere in the world.
The hope was to provide a forum to highlight the success story of youth leaders and invite governments to consider future policy options available to Middle Eastern states.
Jasmine Gammon, I'm a senior fellow here at the Atlantic Council working on countering violent extremism and radicalization issues. I really think that first of all, when you're thinking about an issue like this, to understand that there is no one-size-fits-all situation or solution. Every country in the Middle East is different. It has its own challenges and therefore its own solutions. And so if you take a country-by-country view of the issue and you look at the societies, the building blocks, the opportunities and the challenges, I think that's a first step in getting to a more applicable solution rather than trying to say, this is the solution for everybody. A few of the things that we should focus on when it comes to the youth issue and countering extremist or radical thoughts. First of all, I don't think that it's necessarily Islamic versus secular lens. I don't think the necessary question is which is better or what works best. It depends. And that's not a very satisfying answer, but it depends. It depends on the culture, it depends on the country. What is harmful, whether you're looking at a secular society or an Islamic society or a religious society, is to think about the identity question. Does this person, does this young person believe that they are part of a mission or a culture or a community that they belong to? Do they have a voice? Can they influence things that are happening around them? Do they have control over their destiny? These are all big questions that governments have to help answer when it comes to their youth population. If someone feels like they are part of something positive, then that's a way to lead them towards the right path. If they don't, if they're lost, if they feel like there's no hope, that's when you start running into problems.
So we can't ignore the constraints facing the private sector when it comes to encourage investment and job creation.
The Middle East's highest priority and deficit need remain job creation. Mr. Lundberg from World Bank presents some ideas to solve this issue.
So I'm Markus Lundberg, and I'm the lead specialist at the World Bank, and I lead a youth program, among other things, something called the Global Partnership for Youth in Development of the World Bank. And I'm lead specialist on youth development at the bank. So I think the young people in the Middle East face some of the same problems that young people face all around the world, right? Negotiating adolescence, negotiating young adulthood, making the transition from school to work. Young people face the same problems everywhere. And so it's, in many ways, the Middle East is not unique, right? And the Middle East is not different from the rest of the world. Young people face the same problems, as Bill Reese was saying, in Europe, in North America, in Africa, elsewhere. There are some things some concerns that young people in the Middle East have that are a little bit different from those elsewhere. Such as the fact that markets seem more constrained. It's difficult for young people to get into businesses. It's difficult for them to start businesses. Laws and policies are more constraining. It's hard to get finance. It's hard to get licenses for businesses for young people. It's much harder for young people than it is for older people and established businesses. So that's very, very difficult. That's one thing. Secondly, there's been a tradition in the Middle East of young people waiting for public sector jobs. Now, happily, that's diminishing. But there has been a tradition of young people waiting for years in order to find a civil service job, because that was seen as the ideal, as the pinnacle, the most advantageous sort of employment was in the public sector. Salaries are good, burden is fairly low, you get good benefits and so on. So everyone wanted a public sector job. Happily, in the past few years, that concern seems to have been diminished. But there is still a difficulty in getting young people, into convincing young people to take risks, to try to be entrepreneurial, to set up businesses in the private sector, to become real entrepreneurs. There are some programs, one called INJAZ, another one called Know About Business, that are trying to teach young people or give them the hope or the encouragement that they can have a future in the private sector.
Youth across Middle East facing big challenges, either it is economic, governmental, social. The question is, can Middle East have new generation, healthy and powerful, ready to be part of the solution, not the problem? Abbas Zangana, Kurdistan 24, Washington, D.C.